Ay, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Green.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Breitzer, and Shabbat Shalom, CBE, and everybody gathered here tonight, both by Zoom and Facebook Live. It's so good to be with you again in this space. Many of you, of course, have always been joining us by Zoom and Facebook Live, but it's a treat for us to be back in this familiar way, even if it may be a little unusual. Over the past few weeks, we've been doing other things, but it's really nice actually to be back in a familiar space, even if my neighbors might be a little annoyed for the singing from downstairs.
I think you're in a familiar space, Rabbi Green. This is my childhood bedroom.
That certainly is a familiar space. And I hope it brings you so much joy, Cantor Breitzer, as you think about so many Shabbos with family. And all of us obviously have hopefully had some opportunity by now to give thanks during this week. But let's give a little bit of thanks in the chat right now before we get started. We can say Shabbat Shalom, Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Tell us where you're coming from in the chat, both by Zoom and by Facebook Live. And in just a moment, we're going to light our Shabbat candles. So if you have candles nearby, go and get them and something to light them with. And we'll resume in just a moment. But tell us where you're coming from and say Shabbat Shalom.
Ay, ay, from Prospect Heights, ay, ay, from Bay Ridge and Mawa, ay, 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 from 8th Avenue and 5th Street, and from Prospect Park South, and Arlington, Massachusetts, from eastern Pennsylvania, where there's a bit of snow, Plaza Street East, and Millerton, New York, from Okemos, Michigan, ay, Plaza Street West. Ay, 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 ay.
Now that many of us have had a chance to say Shabbat Shalom and greet one another, it's time to formally greet Shabbat and welcome Shabbat with our Shabbat candles. So if you have them there, I invite you to bring them close to your screen as we light these candles together and make this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Amen. Yedid nefesh av harachamam meshoch avdecha el retzonecha yarutz avdecha kemo ayam yishtachaveh el mul hadarecha yerav lo yedidutecha minofel צור וכל טעם אדוני זיו העולם נפשי חולת אהבתך אנא אל נרפנה לה בהראות לך נועם זיווך אז תתחזק ותתרפא והייתה לך שמחת עולם ותהיה אמונה רחמך וחוסנה על בן אהובך כי זה כמה נחשפתי לראות בתפארת עוזך אנא עיני חמדת ליבי חוסנה ואל נא תתעלה יגלנה ופרוס חביבי עלי את סוכת שלומך תאיר ארץ מכבודך נגילה ונשמחה בך מהר אהוב כי במועד וכוננו כי מעולם
Shabbat Shalom once again. Obviously, this is a special Shabbat because it is just coming on the heels of Thanksgiving. And one of the things for which I'm especially grateful for, I suppose, this week is the opportunity to creatively harmonize with you, Cantor Breitzer, when no one can hear me. And hopefully...
I so wish I could.
Oh, I don't wish that, but I'm really glad to have this opportunity, and hopefully all of you can do the same. Creatively get involved in tonight's service however feels right to you, perhaps in ways that are unusual. It is Really good to be ending this week with you, ending an abridged week for many of us, an abridged week of work, but a week nonetheless filled with various stresses and preparations and all kinds of planning. And I hope that however you spent this week, it was meaningful. This is our yearly opportunity to remind you, although I probably remind you of this occasionally at other points throughout the year, that Jews, in Hebrew, Yehudim, our name itself comes from the root of modeh or hoda'ah, giving thanks. And so embedded within the very experience of being Jewish, according to our tradition, is the idea of giving thanks. And hopefully this evening is a chance for you to extend further gratitude for things in your life, for various blessings. If you didn't get a chance yesterday to give enough thanks, perhaps tonight gives us another opportunity. And our Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, which are what we begin each Friday with, are in many ways opportunities of giving thanks. They are words of praise. They're supposed to be a warm-up, because even if we're not in the mood yet, or we sat down at our tables or our desks or our computers, wherever we're zooming in from, even if we weren't quite in the mood to give thanks, our Psalms are an ancient technology that try to give us the spirit or the space for giving thanks. And that's exactly how we set the stage right now for Shabbat with L'chu Neranenah, the first of these Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat.
L'chu Neranenah l'Adonai Naria l'tzorishenu nekadem afanav betodah bizmirot naria lo השמיים ותגל הארץ, ירם הים ומלוא יעלוז שדי, וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל עצי יד, לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט to alai alai ai alalai alalai alai ai 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 alalai ai 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 Adonai malach tagei haaretz תשמחו עם רבים ענן בערפל סביביו צדק ומשפט מכון כיסו אוהבי אדוני שנאו רע שומר נפשות חסידיו מיד רשעים יצילמו אור זרוע לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה שמחו צדיקים באדוני והודו לזכר קודשו אלללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללללlלlללllllllllll מזמור שירו לאדוני שיר חדש כי נפלאות עשה הושיע לו ימינו וזרוע קודשו הודיע אדוני ישועתו לעיני הגויים גילה צדקתו זכר חסדו ואמונתו לבית ישראל ראו כל ארצי הארץ את ישועת אלוהינו הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ תצחוק ורננו וזמרו זמרו לאדוני בכינור וכל זמרה בחצוצרות וכל שופר הריעו לפני המלך אדוני רם הים ומלואו בתבל ויושביה נהרות ימחאו כף יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני כי בא לשפוט הארץ ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים במישרים עלי 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 גדול ונורא יודו שמך גדול ונורא קדוש הוא קדוש הוא קדוש הוא קדוש שמך גדול ונורא יודו שמך גדול ונורא. Perhaps you, like me right now, are being taken back to the last almost 2 years of having to come together like this in prayer and song exclusively through our screens, when the memory of our voices singing together was a distant one. Now the memory is very fresh. I'm remembering as recently as last Shabbat the sounds and the appearance of us singing together in community. the echoes of our song and prayers together, very fresh in my mind and maybe in yours too. So let's take just a few moments breathing in this space together, remembering how we can still use it, even at a physical distance, to create sacred community. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מכל הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי, אורי. שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי. בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר עתילה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום את הרבה לך, וגם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת. Sing a little louder. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ילדי ילדי, איי 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני. It is good to give thanks ולזמר לזמר לשמך עליון, טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני.
Tov lehodot ladonai, as you translated even as you were singing Cantor Breitzer, it is good to give thanks to God. That is one example of that verb lehodot or modeh, hoda'ah, that we say so many times in Kabbalat Shabbat. Another example of how giving thanks is central to every Shabbat, not just this special Shabbat when we're obviously also thinking of giving thanks because of Thanksgiving. As Thanksgiving this year, as it does every year, gives way to a month of songs and advertisements and public merriment in honor of a holiday that many of us don't celebrate, this season might feel more different, or might make us feel more different from our friends and colleagues than we otherwise would. This is sort of the other side of Thanksgiving, which of course many of us love celebrating Thanksgiving, but then it leads to a month of hearing songs and being confronted with so many things that we don't actually celebrate during this season. As we now settle into this annual reminder of Jewish American distinctiveness, or perhaps otherness, during December, our Torah cycle gives us a parsha in which that distinctiveness comes to the fore. In Parshat Vayeishev, we begin the final saga, the denouement of the book of Genesis. By now, as we know, the world has been created, Abraham has encountered God, Jacob is renamed Israel, and the family story of patriarchs in which our people is rooted has finally taken shape. When we read of Joseph this week, we read of a biblical figure who is not a patriarch at all, but a son. Less integral to the Jewish story, perhaps, than the patriarchs, but a figure who epitomizes the Jewish difference that many of us, again, are keenly aware of at this season. There are a number of reasons why Joseph isn't traditionally counted as a patriarch. Of course, the most obvious reason is that the Israelites, as an entire people, are not descended from him the way they are from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he isn't literally the ancestor of our entire people. But you could treat him mythically as such, and we don't. Some commentators suggest this is because Joseph was too cocky, too full of himself. But no matter the reason, he's not lucky enough to have his name recited alongside his forebears in the Amidah and in other prayers each day and each week. Intriguingly, Joseph is also not considered to be one of our prophets, which may surprise some of you. Islam views him as a prophet, but Rashi's definitive list of Jewish prophets excludes Joseph. He has prophetic dreams, it's true, but he doesn't have the kind of relationship with God that many other biblical figures do. God never speaks to him directly, nor does God explain Joseph's dreams. But while Joseph is not a patriarch, nor is he a prophet, I think he has a unique status among the figures of Genesis, because I've come to think of Joseph as the first Jew, especially when it comes to distinctiveness. Now, I know Abraham is usually given that title, since he was the first monotheist according to our tradition. And technically, the word Jew, or Yehudi, which once again means giving thanks, didn't emerge until sometime after the kingdom of Judah, which developed far later. But Joseph plays a number of roles that sound familiar to us as typically Jewish in the literary, sociological, and theological senses. Even more than Jacob turned Israel, for whom our people is named. As a child, Joseph is set apart from the rest of his siblings. He's the chosen one, which we know is a mixed blessing for him. His distinction, positive though it is, leads to some of the hardest episodes in his life. And this sense of being special extends throughout Joseph's story. He's recognized for his difference while in Egypt, recognized as gifted, but also singled out as a Hebrew. Though God does not communicate with him directly when he's in Egypt, he has a special relationship with the divine. 4 times in a short section of text, we read that God was with Joseph. So too are the Jews, a people apart, a people that we also understand to have a distinct relationship with God. Not only is he set apart from others, Joseph also plays a role of being in between various others. As a teenager, he is in between his father and brothers, quite literally, so when Jacob sends him to fetch them in the field. He's the figure who stands between Potiphar, his Egyptian master, and Potiphar's household. He is, of course, also in between Potiphar and Potiphar's wife, though perhaps not as in between as she would have liked. And in the role of vizier, he stands between Pharaoh himself and the Egyptian people. This in-betweenness, which we might not immediately consider as Jewish, has tended to be the role in which Jews have found themselves throughout history. In between leaders and peoples, in between empires, between different places, religions, and ideas. This is perhaps why he, like his great-grandfather Abraham, is called a Hebrew, an Ivri, one who crosses over. He has come from someplace else, and he is mentally in between worlds. In chapter 39, Joseph is called a Hebrew twice, hinting to us that there's something important in this episode about Joseph's Hebrewness, which at least here is a symbol of Jewishness. During Joseph's time as a servant in the house of Potiphar, he succeeds in all that he does. We learn here too that Joseph is extremely good looking, and for this reason, Potiphar's wife becomes infatuated with him and makes sexual advances on him. The Midrash teaches that Potiphar's wife is so infatuated with Joseph that she invites the women of Egypt to her home just to watch him, and as they pretend to cook, peeling etrogs, according to the tradition, which is sort of charming, the women are so busy ogling Joseph's body that they accidentally cut themselves as they peel the etrogs. But the Torah teaches that Joseph famously refuses her advances multiple times. Defeated and likely embarrassed, she calls out to her servants, "Look, this Hebrew slave you brought us has come to make a sport of us." She repeats this a second time to her husband, referring to Joseph again as a Hebrew. The word Ivri, or Hebrew, is used to mark a national distinction. Potiphar's wife, her deliberate choice to call Joseph a Hebrew is intended, therefore, to emphasize his national difference. Many classical commentators pick up on this. Ramban and Chizkuni, for instance, both 13th century sages, comment that Egyptians were not allowed even to eat bread with Hebrews because the Egyptians saw them as different to the point of being inferior. Clearly, that didn't bother Potiphar's wife when she wanted something from Joseph, but when she didn't get it, she was able to wield her influence by pulling the Hebrew card, by pointing out his indelible difference. Here, too, we get an unfortunate reminder of the Jewish experience throughout history. In so many places and in so many eras, our difference is overlooked to the extent that we play along, but is used against us when we don't. In each of these ways, Joseph stands out as an archetype of the Jew. He doesn't receive the status that our tradition reserves for some of our most important figures, but he may be the most Jewish of any of them. The nice thing about seeing Joseph as the ultimate other and the ultimate Jew is that in the end, things turn out well for him. He reconciles with his family. He builds success and security in Egypt, where he relocates his brothers and eventually has a family. He's accepted by Egyptians to the point where he takes an Egyptian wife. He serves the society in which he lives and helps Egypt reach heights they couldn't have imagined without him. Though he was enslaved and though he was maligned by people unlike him, his story results in goodness and blessing that extends for a very long time after him. Joseph is a rare example of otherness turning into goodness. And if for many of us feeling different may be inevitable, especially from this weekend through the end of 2021, maybe we can follow his example and find some way of turning our difference at this season into a blessing. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Green. If you're able to rise, please do so now for Chatzi Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכונו ויומכונו בחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה, בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה, ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן באדמה, ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד. Please be seated. ברוך אתה אדוני ומלך העולם, אשר ברומרים הרבים וכמה פותח שערים ובזמונם משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים השדה לכל חיים לשבועותיהם ברקיע כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מבני חושך וחושך מבני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים. זהלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Thanksgiving is a chance, obviously, to give thanks, but my guess is that I'm not the only one who yesterday consumed a huge meal and was also keenly aware of all the people who don't get to do such things, whether that's because they can't afford to do so, or because they aren't free to do so, or because they don't have people with whom to gather. And especially in weeks when we are confronted with all the reasons when we should feel grateful, we're also perhaps more aware of how broken our world is when we consider all the people who don't get to do what we do. And Hashkivenu is a chance every week, every Shabbat, every evening, actually, to pray to God and ask for some sort of protection for those of us who are vulnerable and for other people in the world who are vulnerable. But I think especially in a week when we have so many reasons to feel grateful, we also have more opportunities to think about other people in the world, people whom we know, people whom we don't know, but whom we know about, who are a little more vulnerable than we are. And so we take some of that awareness of the brokenness of the world and of how perhaps less fortunate or more vulnerable other people are into this prayer, this lullaby, this prayer asking God for protection in the evening time, but also a Sukkat Shalom, a shelter of peace over all of us as we move into both a time in the evening, but also a time in the year, in the calendar, when things are especially dark, and perhaps many of us feel especially vulnerable.
So we send forth our prayers for protection and also those in need of healing. If there's someone that you're thinking of, we invite you now to type their name into the chat and to open your chat box and to have all these prayers, all these names, all these relationships inform our own prayer and singing right now. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ותגננו בעצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך והגן בדנו והסר מעלינו אויב דבר וחרב רע ויגון והרחק ממנו עוון נפשה, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו. כי אל שומרנו, מצילנו אתה. כי אל חנון רחום אתה. ושמור צאתנו, בואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה. ויד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים. מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. May they all receive prayers for speedy healing. May we be renewed and refreshed. The sense of rest and peace that this Shabbat brings, as together we rise, if we're able, for singing Vishamru, and continue then with the silent Amidah, words in our hearts, words of our prayers. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויינפש, שבת ויינפש. ay, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Konei Shamayim va'aretz מגן אבות ואימהות בדברו, מחיה מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד וירא ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד, בהון הברכות. אל ההודעות, אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בי קדושה לעמד ושני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. We remain standing for Aleinu Leshabeach. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Please be seated.
We now call up into our virtual bima Mali Silverberg, who will offer us a few greetings and announcements on behalf of our Board of Trustees.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And Thank you, Rabbi Green and Cantor Breitzer, for leading us so beautifully this evening. Thank you to the entire CBE staff who makes this community run each and every day. And especially thank you to Ben Kern, who is making everything run so smoothly on Zoom and on live stream. I'm grateful for this community each and every day, and especially today. Just a few announcements for tonight. So first of all, tomorrow, Shabbat morning services will be taking place all virtually at 9:30 a.m. on Zoom, Facebook Live, and on CBE's website. Remember, there is no Gan Shabbat for Yachad K through 2 families or Shirla Shabbat for ages 0 through 5 with Debbie Brookman for this Shabbat morning. Looking ahead to the last 2 Shabbatot of the year, December 24th and 25th, and December 31st and January 1st. Like they are today, the CBE buildings will be closed for the holiday weekends. We will hold Shabbat services only on Zoom and live stream to our website and Facebook. All right, the one key announcement. You've been hearing it for weeks and we're so close. So last but not least, on December 3rd, CBE will light up the night to celebrate Hanukkah as a joined community, starting with an outdoor youth and family gathering at 5:30, followed by Rabbi Colin's installation and a ritual celebration of our merger in the sanctuary at 6:30, and at 8 p.m., an epic babysitter worthy, if that's relevant for you, cocktail party in the street with hot food, warm drinks, think boozy hot chocolate, music, dancing, and light to celebrate this momentous day for our community. This night is going to be a very big deal for CBE, and while registration is not required, we do appreciate your RSVP so we know how many latkes and sufganiyot to order. So you're getting the deal here. So click on the link in the chat for a detailed schedule. There's an RSVP form there. We really can't wait to see you there. And as always, be sure to subscribe to our weekly advisory and check our website, cbebk.org, for details about everything that's happening at CBE. Thank you, Shabbat Shalom, and a happy early Hanukkah.
Thank you, Mali, Yasher Koach, and Shabbat Shalom. We know that we end each service with saying the words of Kaddish, but this evening, of course, we'll do that in just a moment. But Cantor Breitzer and I were thinking before we move into Kaddish, we want to honor the life of Stephen Sondheim. We heard just moments ago that he passed away earlier today. And of course, he is one of the most important lyricists that Broadway had ever seen. Was also somebody with significant resonance in the Jewish community. He was someone who exemplified that sort of difference and the meaning and majesty and beauty of what it can be to be a little bit different in our society. And so we want to take a moment before moving into our words of memory to offer a moment of memory specifically with him in mind.
Isn't it rich? Are we a pair? Me here at the last on the ground, you in midair. Send in the clouds. Isn't it bliss? Don't you approve? One who keeps tearing around, one who can't move. Where are the clouds? Send in the clouds. Just when I'd stopped opening doors, finally knowing the one that I wanted was yours, making my entrance again with my usual flair, sure of my lines, no one is there. Don't you love farce? My fault, I fear. I thought that you'd want what I want. Sorry, my dear. But where are the clouds? Quick, send in the clouds. Don't bother, they're here. Isn't it rich? Isn't it queer? Losing my timing this late in my career. And where are the clouds? There ought to be clouds. Well, maybe next year.
In addition to Stephen Sondheim, whose memory will eternally be a blessing for the Jewish people and for perhaps all of humankind, we turn now to the memory of many others in our community whom we're thinking of tonight. If you're thinking of someone, if you are observing Shiva, the first week of mourning, we want to invite you to please unmute and share a name with this community. And if you're observing Shloshim, or the first 30 days, you can likewise unmute and share a name. Or Shana, the first year of mourning, you can unmute and share a name.
Thomas Bogetich, my father.
My cousin, Michael Howard Cohn.
Or if you are observing a yard site, you can unmute and share a name as well.
All journalists who died in the line of duty.
My mom, Harriet Green.
My father, Elliot McManus.
I invite all those, oh, go ahead. Oh, I invite all those who are saying Kaddish for someone in particular tonight to stay unmuted, and in just a moment, we'll recite Kaddish together. And in particular, we in our community are observing the following, the memory, the Shloshim of the following people. Abe Schumer, father of Chuck Schumer, father-in-law of Iris Weinschall, grandfather of Jessica and Allison, and great-grandfather of Noah, as well as Richard Samuels, stepfather of Deborah Stone, father-in-law of Daniel Weiss, and grandfather of Leo and Reuben. Erica Gorin, mother of Lynn Hill. Lester Block, father of Marla Kochman and father-in-law of David Kochman. And Barbara Feld, mother of Joanne Feld and mother-in-law of Scott Wanger, and grandmother of Avery and Robert Wanger. I want to invite you, I see some people have already done this, but if you are joining us by Zoom or Facebook Live, please type in the name of anyone you're thinking of tonight. As we add to these names, the following yard sites. Lawrence Adler, Betts Liffland Apple, Alvin Bernstein, Morris Bernberg, Bernard Block, Rosa Block, Thomas Bogetich, Betty Brenner, Muriel Brody, Max Cohen, Laura Cohen, Mary Fishman, Natan Fishman, Martha Fox, Samuel Frank, Ethel Friedberg, Morris Gernsheimer, Irving Gerstmann, Harold Ginsberg, Jacob Glick, Gail Goldberg, Sally Green, Dennis Hudson, Harvey Janowitz, Erwin Kolodny, Evelyn Kasoy, Gertrude Levinowitz, Albert Libuser, Solomon Lipschitz, Herbert Mann, Elliot Nachmias, Lucille Strauss-Newman, Harry Nightingale, Joseph Petchesky, Helen Polanski, Harvard writer, Tony Rosengarten, Arthur Rubenstein, Hannah Salberg, David Schur, Rose Siegel, Ann Silverman, Harold Sylvie, Libby Strauss, Barbara Thomas, Elaine Vogel, Carrie Wexler, Bernard Weinstein, and Louise Wheatley. We say Zichronam Livracha. May all their memories be for a blessing. As we turn now to the words of Kaddish, and please rise if you are able. Yitgadal v'yitgadash
Shemei Rabbah, Yilma Tivra, Yirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei,
V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'yed chol Beit Yisrael ba'gala u'v'zman karev v'yimru amen.
Yehi
Hey
Shemei Rabbah
Shneha
Mevorach,
Mevarach
Le'olam,
Le'olam Olamei Omaya Barach Yishabach Olah V'Yivamam V'Yinaseh Kadar V'Yidalad V'Yisrael B'nei Dekotcha V'Riko
Le'ilah Minchol
Elom
Birchata
V'Chol
B'Shirata,
Birchata V'Shirata
Tushbechata
Tushbechata
Damiran, Bi'alma, Bi'amru, Amen.
Miran B'Yamah
Yehi
Ro
Shmei,
Amen
Mama, Bin Shemaya,
Yehe
B'Chayim, Aleinu, Shkoya, Binru, Amen.
Rabba
Osi Shalom,
Mishaya
Yomah,
V'Chayim
Huya Aseh, Shalom,
Shalom
Aleinu,
Nimrama
Yom Israel,
Aseh Shalom
Kol
Aleinu
Yoshvei
V'Yakol Yisrael
Tevel,
V'Yakol
Binru,
Yoshvei Tevel
Amen.
Ru Amen.
Amen.
May the one who makes peace over us and over all who mourn make peace over the whole world, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hashavet Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem Leshalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bachuni Leshalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzeitkhem Leshalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And so if you have something with which to make Kiddush, make Shabbat holy, we invite you to bring it forward now. Yom HaShishi, Vaycholu Hashmayim V'Aretz Bechol Tzevaham, Vaychal Elohim Yom HaShvi Melachto Asher Asa, Vayishbot, Vayom HaShvi Mikom Melachto Asher Asa, Vayevarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi, Vaykadesh Oto, Ki Bo Shabbat. Mikom Melachto Asher Bara Elohim La'asot Savri, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Borei Peri HaGafen, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'avav ratzon inchilanu, zikaron le'maseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila le'mikrai kodesh, zeicher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, Ve'ava v'ratzon hinchaltanu, Baruch Ata Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Drinking it quick before the little boys come. It's okay, they're otherwise occupied. If you have some challah, I invite you to hold it up, or something else with which to make motzi. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, HaMotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This concludes our service. If you are joining us by Facebook Live, we say Shabbat Shalom. Have a good week.